By the way, can you ever do equity trades? Can you say, I'll trade you some of SafeGraph equity for your equity in your company? Or is that just not legal?
It's probably legal, but it's probably too hard to do because probably everyone always like overvalues their equity.
Wouldn't that be
stuff.
the easiest thing to do if you could, every time you see a product, you like, hey, say, hey, can I trade you some SafeGraph equity?
I don't even know exactly how you would do it from like a tax. It's like
forget the taxes.
Like if you think about like the reason why a currency is that it's just like it's so much easier. And it's just like I just put money in.
But that's a bug, not a feature.
I don't think so. I actually think it's a real feature.
You don't want a SafeGraph token.
Well, I mean, but then everyone's going to value that token in a different way. Like I do have a SafeGraph token. I have equity. I have a share of SafeGraph stock,
which would be better if it was liquid.
I don't necessarily think that's true because everything is liquid. It's very, like even when I buy currencies, it's like, well, they basically, even when if you buy a cryptocurrency, right? They usually will put it in. They usually only put in two prices, in dollars and in ETH, right? Those are the only two things that you can buy a token in usually. They don't even put it in Bitcoin. They don't even put it in, like, you just think of like all the other things you could put it in Apple shares or whatever. Like they could tell you the price in anything, but they usually tell you two things. There's some USD token, whatever that is, Tether,
but they could
or whatever.
Price it in Amazon equity. Like
they could price it in whatever they want, but they don't because it's too complicated. It's like you don't want to list a price in like thousands of things.
But that's a UX. That's a UX problem. That's not like a currency problem.
No, I think you want some sort of. I think the dollar is a very simple conversion. First of all, we live with the dollar. You and I live in the United States, so we know what the dollar is worth. We know what we can buy with the dollar. We know how much it takes to earn a dollar. We know how much what we So it's a very simple thing to quote everything in that thing. Now, just it doesn't mean these other currencies. If you just think of like the rise of real estate in Cupertino, right? Okay, the rise of real estate in Cupertino in dollars is positive. The rise of real estate in Cupertino in Apple share is negative, right? So, and that is what people are using really to buy their real estate in Cupertino. They're using Apple shares. They're not using dollars.
Did you make this discovery on SafeGraph, or did you make this discovery otherwise?
We make all our discoveries on SafeGraph, of course. But
you're doing pricing data too?
No, not yet. But one day.
God, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. But but like when like the average economist looks at the price in housing in Cupertino, they just look at it in dollars, and it's just a simple way. And then okay, those prices are going up 20% a year or something like that. Okay, they probably have some sort of understanding. Okay, well, these people probably, a lot of them work at Apple, and people at Apple have become wealthy because of the appreciation of the stock price, et cetera. They're not thinking about it in all these different currencies because there's so many different currencies in our life. Once you get to a certain level of success, you're probably dealing with like, dozens and sometimes more different types of currencies, and just like so much easier to convert them into one or maybe two. If let's say you live between the US and Europe or something like that, you have a small number of currencies that you're, and then ideally, even like if you think of like the euro and the dollar, yes, they fluctuate between them, but it's like the conversion between the US and dollar has been relatively stable over, let's say the last 20 years or so. It's not like crazy fluctuation and difference. So it's always relatively easy to make that conversion. Whereas like the relationship between Apple shares and the dollar have been like incredibly unstable over the last 20 years. And so like if you're just starting to quote things in Apple shares, just like even understanding the inflation of the shit, like it'd just be so hard to go do. So it's nice to have a common language. Just like you and I both are speaking English right now. Like I could speak one language, you could speak a different language. We could have a translator in the middle. But that wouldn't be like fun for the listeners to listen to.
What if there were subtitles?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe, and you could get the subtitle in your own language or something like that. But again, there would be a cost for us to actually having a real-time conversation if like, unless there's like a real-time subtitle.
What if in real time we fade it to the background and then do like audio, like the robotic audio, like the Stephen Hawking voice?
As you yourself were saying, doing transcriptions on the fly is really costly and really, really difficult.
No, but we're not airing on the fly. Like we have a pre-production process.
But our conversation is happening on the fly. So you're saying something, I need to respond to you.
But the whole production's for the benefit of the listener and the benefit of the viewer.
Yeah, but sure, you could send me a question right now, and we could do this async, and I could be at my home, and then I could answer the
yes,
question
we
and
could
go
do
back,
that.
and we could do this over, and
it would be interesting.
A chess game,
I mean, you're proving my point. This would be interesting.
Maybe we should do that sometime.
We probably should do that.
But and we should do it in different languages. You can go learn Thai, and I'll go. But
seriously, you just proved my point, because you just basically made an observation that proved that if you price something in Apple shares, it can be considered from another angle, which is kind of more interesting.
Well, it certainly is interesting. It's just really good to have a common. These join keys are so important to our life. I think they're the most underappreciated thing. So language is a join key. The dollar is a join key. The meter, like whatever, the meter is a join key.
The shared reality.
There's some sort of shared join key, and anyone who's ever dealt with databases before knows they're so important to instead of Unix time. I love Unix time. Okay, it's a super imperfect thing. It's like an integer, and it started in January 1st, 1971 or something. And it's why did they start that? It's you have to go negative time before. It's this weird integer, right? That but it's standard, and it's a standard thing that we got. And again, any join key is imperfect. There's no such. The whole idea, if you're going to agree on a join case, it has to be imperfect because it has to join all these different, and the English language is the most imperfect thing. If you have kids and you start to see them learn English, you're like, what the heck? This is the terrible language that we all speak. It doesn't make any sense at all. And the QWERTY keyboard is this terrible thing that we all use, right? So there's all these different join keys in our life, and they all have imperfections in them, but life wouldn't work without join keys. And the more join keys you have, the more you can actually collaborate and do. If you even think of coding, okay, are you coding in assembly or something? Are you coding in the machine language? Are you coding?
I agree with you, but Apple shares are a join key. We have a shared understanding of what an Apple share is.
I have no idea what the price of Apple shares are today. I actually don't know.
I don't know what the price of a dollar is.
And I don't know what the price was 3 years ago.
Do you know what the price of a dollar is relative to a Bitcoin, or relative to an ETH?
I right this second. No,
exactly. So what's the difference?
Well, I think the dollar is a better join key.
But don't you want both as alternatives? If you can have a bigger universe of possibilities.
You can get paid in many, many different ways, and you can get paid in your shares in your company, or if you join SafeGraph, you get paid in dollars, and you get paid in shares in your company. But you also get paid in many other ways. You get paid in. I get to learn. I get certain certain prestige. I get paid in. You're not paying me anything for this podcast, right? But I get prestige for being on this podcast, and I get learning from being on this. So you are paying me in something.
All I'm trying to say is,
right?
if you want to buy ComStor as quickly and reliably as possible, probably the best way to do that is to offer SafeGraph shares.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Because now this guy who has no time to do due diligence has to do due diligence on this other company.
You got a great email signature. You're offering free data in your email signature. Who doesn't want equity in that guy?
Well, but he doesn't know. If I say he has no idea what a share is worth, and he doesn't know what the preference stack is on top of it, and that's not his job. His job is to go build a
blindly
company.
trust. You blindly trust in this scenario.
Well, how do you know? How do you say I want 5 shares of ComScore for 1 share of SafeGraph? Is that a good deal? Is that a bad? Maybe it should be 5 shares of SafeGraph for 1 share of ComScore.
Luckily we have these things called valuations, which usually price to some nominal degree.
It's you don't know if people are making things up. You don't know what the shares are.
Send that over email. Send them the TechCrunch article over email.
But what? The TechCrunch doesn't say the number of outstanding shares
in the
company.
The Carta you can't share with Carta or something.
It's so. You're taking a very simple thing and making it super complex.
You're taking a super complex thing and keeping it complex.
Why is it complex to pay in dollars? It's the most simple thing.
Why wouldn't you want the alternative?
Whenever I go to a store, I always buy in dollars. It's simple. It's
Wouldn't
easy.
you like to be able to buy a banana with SafeGraph shares? Conceivably, if you could.
I would like to buy, but would I like someone else to every time I wanted to go? Someone wanted to pay me for something. I have to go evaluate. Let's say I want to I'm selling my car right now, right? So let's say my car's worth $5,000 in dollars, and someone's like, I want to give you 42 shares in this thing, right? That I'm doing. Well, now I have to go I have to spend all this time to go evaluate. And then someone else comes to me and says, oh, and I got one thing, I got a car to sell, right? I can sell one guy, he gave me 42 shares in his company. Another guy is giving me 50 shares in their company. And then another gal is giving me 20 shares in their company. I don't know what's better. And now I have to spend all this time like evaluating what is what. I just want to sell my car to the highest bidder. It's so much easier. Like if I was selling my car for $5,000, someone offered me $5,100. I'm like, done.
I mean, you're free to say in your opening salvo, I will only transact in dollars for this transaction. You're free to say that. But it would be nice to be able to also say, I will accept SafeGraph shares for this car.
Well, sure. I think you.
I'm just saying that's the world I want to live in.
Yeah, well, I think you do.
And you could do that right
now.
Well, you can offer SafeGraph shares for ComSource shares, and it would be great.
Well, I don't know. First of all, I don't want to sell a SafeGraph share. So, like I own dollars,
so
and
you should be able to trade shares in some other company you own. Probably there's some laggard that you would rather own You would rather own ComSource than the laggard.
Well,
the
but that would be
laggard.
somewhat unfair to the CEO. And then plus, like they're using these. They are like. In this case, I'm not buying the shares from the founder, right? I'm buying the shares from the company, and the company takes the money that the investor puts in and then invests that money in, like, say, people's salaries usually to actually make the company more valuable, right? So let's say a company raises $10 million. It's usually not going out the door to a person and they're just keeping it. It's actually staying in the company's treasury, and then they use that to go pay. So it needs to be somewhat of a liquid thing that other people are going to want. So if they were just going to take the SafeGraph shares and convert that into dollars so that they can go pay people, well, they might as well just have dollars to begin with, because now you have like transaction costs that are coming in. And most of the people they hire, like, they want dollars. They want ComSource stock as well, probably, right? But they also need to have, like, someone usually doesn't work for no dollars. Some people might, and just stock. But the vast majority of people, like, still need to pay their rent, and they need to buy groceries, and they need to do other things, and they need dollars to do those things. So it's a very simple, like, join keys. People can get very complicated about stuff, and like everyone always wants to make a better join key, and everybody always wants to make a better, other types of things, but they're so important. And every time and also the people who complain the most about join keys are the engineers, because they're like, I can create a better join key. Like, this join key doesn't make sense. And yes, they are like the meter has problems. Like all these different join keys that we use in our life all have incredibly weird problems that we all know about. The English language is like the worst. Is like almost the worst join key, but it's still the core join key that we all use for everything. And with like Esperanto is so much of a better join key. And it was like a beautiful creation, basically created by like amazing engineers. But like, you have these like cold start problems that are hard to, would it be better if like the whole world was speaking Esperanto? Probably. Like maybe that would be a better thing. I mean, I don't know. I've actually never spoke Esperanto. I don't know that much about the language, but like maybe that would be a better world. I don't know, but it's not going to happen. We live in a world where basically like most interesting conversations happen over English. The whole world has decided for whatever reason that this is the join key. Some people, they're native English speakers. Some people, it's their second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh language, but they've decided this is going to be the core join key. When we go to a conference, when we talk, amongst folks, whatever, like we're going to use this as a join key where we can understand. If you grow up in Sweden, like you understand, I've got to go learn English because it's a join key so I can have conversations in other types of places, whether academia or even just to listen to this podcast. It's not translated to Swedish, I don't think.